If you are a Braveheart, the next hour is just for you. Welcome to Bravehearts Radio with Brian Reinbold. In this program, you'll learn who the Bravehearts are and connect with them to help change the world. By doing so, you'll be changed for the better. Now, here's your host, Brian Reinbold.
And welcome, Bravehearts. I know how difficult it can be to go through your days without purpose. And I know what a great joy it is to find your purpose and to live it. At Bravehearts Radio, we're at our best when we're helping others to find that genuine voice within ourselves. Ourselves, themselves. I kind of put that all together in one word. But when we find that genuine voice, man, that is one of the great joys in life. Today we're talking about choosing hope. And I'm always asking the question, what if it were possible? And what if it were possible to choose hope in the unexpected turns in life? My guest today is Kayleen Marshall. She's the founder and CEO of the Viaggio Group, author of Who Will Love Me. She's a big-time networker, has Spirit business connections. A lot more that I could say in the introduction, but next thing is welcome, Kayleen.
Ryan, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's, the honor is mine indeed. Who Will Love Me? That's, we were talking about that a little bit in the pre-show. I put it as the title of our conversation today, but I put a question mark at the end of the statement because it occurred to me, who will love me? It sounds like, or looks like a question. The title of the book, it's a statement.
Mm-hmm. I made it a statement, very specifically. Yeah. We went round and round with the editors and with my team, and I kept taking it off. They kept putting it on. And I said, there's no question around it. It's about who's going to love, in my story, who's going to love Carrie like my mom did.
Yeah.
And I just took it off, and I don't know. I kept it off, and it was my decision. So, there's no question mark in that.
It's interesting because it's the next thing that clicks over in the mind is, well, there is no question.
That's right. And the question that happened right before my mom passed away was, who's going to love you? And she looked right at my sister. Who's going to love you like I do? Uh-huh. And so in my story, that answer comes out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We say choosing hope in the unexpected turns. And I said, when we first had a conversation, we talk a little bit on the show here about, where have you been? How did you get where you are?
Yeah.
And that's really a lot of that is really Carrie's story, isn't it?
It is. It's my life changed in 2012 upside down. I would call it upside down.
Yeah.
I never expected to be doing what I'm doing today. My husband and I live in the Chicago area, and we received a phone call from my mom that she had stage 1 breast cancer. Now, the ironic thing about that phone call is I hadn't talked to my mom for about 5 years.
Wow.
And she was angry at me because of after my dad's death, she wanted me to move to Arizona to care for her and my sister, and I chose not to. My sister has Down syndrome. She's as sweet as can be. I was actually looking at an article today. I have it sitting right here. It's Preschool Volunteer of the Year that she got in 1991.
Wow.
And I just found that recently. I knew that she got the award, but I didn't see the newspaper article. And you know how you just go through stuff and you find stuff. And I talk a little bit about that in my book. But my mom called and said that she had stage 1 breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I flew out to Arizona and found out that my mom was very, very sick. Mm-hmm. And in that piece of the story, I ended up taking full custody of my sister in guardianship. My mom, she called us in 2000, like November of 2011, 2012 in January. We flew out to kind of assess what was going on, and then came back home, took a leave of absence from my job. My husband and I, my husband's a pastor. We have been in church work all of our lives. I was a women's ministry director at the time. I've also developed a large movement for special needs disabled people in churches. And I just have a heart behind it. I have an elementary ed special ed degree. And when I got the phone call, I ended up flying out. My mom got there on February 1st. After my leave of absence, I took guardianship of my sister on February 8th, and my mom passed away on February 10th. And that's when my life went upside down.
Yeah, that's from the perception that you would have had that your mom was sort of sick, at stage 1. I mean, cancer is always serious, but stage 1 is not like impending.
No, and but she asked that we come because she hadn't put guardianship in place.
Okay.
Guardianship for an adult person with disability is necessary, and she hadn't put that in place because of wanting, when you become a caretaker of somebody with a disability, you put your heart and soul into it. And my mom and dad did that very well.
Yeah.
They did a really good job with my sister. And so it was very hard for them to let go of things. And they wanted my husband and I to move to Arizona and take care of Carrie. And we wanted Carrie to move here and let's put her in a facility or find a community or build something or find a home for her. And they just couldn't see it. They thought this is going to be unsafe. She needs to be in her environment that she knows.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. And that's why we lost contact for several years.
Yeah.
So now we're in this emergency situation. And she ended up passing away, and now I have full guardianship of her. And so,
and you're in Arizona.
And I'm in Arizona
at this time in
2012.
Yeah.
My kids were graduating from college, so we brought Carrie back here for 60 days. And the law says that you can, if Carrie had benefits in the state of Arizona, so I couldn't leave. She couldn't be gone for past 60 days. So we came back here. Now, Carrie, everything's new to her. Everything's new to her because she lives in structure. And we were with my boys for their graduations. And then I ended up moving to Arizona in April and found out that Carrie, lots of adjustments. I moved there for a whole year taking care of Carrie.
So that really, everything changed.
Everything changed. I quit my job. My husband, my kids are now home from college looking for jobs, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they're in our home. We were empty nesters. Now they're in our homes, and I'm away from him it was April through November. And when we found out that we could actually move Carrie to Illinois. So we ended up doing that and turned her world upside down.
Yeah.
Sold my parents' home, brought everything here, and started a life with Carrie in Illinois. Yeah.
I imagine there's something that occurred to you along the way is how grateful you must have been to be able to do that.
Yes. And honestly, Brian, I am married to an amazing man that knew that this could be a possibility sometime on our journey. And here we were now faced with the care of Carrie in our home. And it was like we were being prepared for it. I have an elementary ed special ed degree. My husband has the gift of mercy. It's very merciful, very fun, very laid back. So it worked for us. But I struggled. With it because I love to work. I love to have a full-time job. And actually, there were other plans for me. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, that's indeed. And I think that was the bringing us into the present. And what you're doing now, you did write the book. Are you writing another book?
Okay, so Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I just got a phone call from somebody last week that said you need to write a sequel and you need to write something specifically for leaders and all this people that have these plans for your life, right? I am a communicator. I love this. I like being, I love to give talks. I'm a speaker. I'm a communicator. Getting things down on paper is really hard for me.
Isn't that something else? Yeah.
So through this process, I learned to journal. I learned to write things down. I learned to write down my emotions and to get in touch with where I was every day. Had lots of help. It was important for me to have people around me. I formulated a tribe around me. I still have a tribe around me. That tribe has molded and moved and shaped.
Yeah.
But
well, I first of all, I got to applaud you for writing the book "Who Will Love Me," because it's something that I find everyone has a book in them, and there was a time that I was going to write a book with a friend, Vern Dosh. Vern was my mentor for the son of a Parkinson's sufferer. His dad had passed away from Parkinson's, and then my dad was dying of Parkinson's, and we thought there's no one prepares you for this.
Right.
And the name of the book, we even had a title for it. It's called "Taking the Keys."
Wow.
And we thought the most difficult thing you ever do is tell your father, "I have to take your keys. You can't drive anymore." So we're just about to a break here. Remember that you can be a sponsor of Brave Hearts Radio for as little as $280 a week, and you're not just promoting your business; you're making lives better for kids and their families that are served by Brave Hearts for Kids. BraveHeartsForKids.org. Stick with us. We'll be back on the other side of 60 seconds after these important messages.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America.
Brave Hearts Radio is sponsored by Brave Hearts for Kids, a national pediatric cancer charity. Our mission is to provide life-saving hope and inspiration to families facing the pediatric cancer ordeal through outreach, information, and mentoring. Our recently updated Spotlight Hope mobile app puts families in touch with resources to help make their lives better from any location in the USA. For more information or to help, go to braveheartsforkids.org. That's braveheartsforkids.org. As the mission specialist, Brian Reinbold doesn't fly the rockets, but he does help to make sure each mission gets accomplished. Employee engagement is such an important concern for business people today. Brian helps socially conscious businesses reduce expenses, increase profits, and inspire a sense of dedication in the workforce by training mission-building behavior. It's not what Brian does that's most important. It's what people do after he trains them. For more information, contact Brian Reinbold at Mission Specialist at braveheartsradio.org.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet talk radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
You're part of Brave Hearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian. His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
And welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to Brave Hearts Radio. I'm your host, Brian Reinbold, and I am the mission specialist because I don't fly the rockets. I just help make sure the trip gets accomplished. We are planning a couple trips to Machu Picchu this September and December. You can check these out at the new braveheartsadventures.org, braveheartsadventures.org, Vacations with Purpose. And that's really going to be something else. Had virtual retreat this past weekend with Daniel Gutierrez and Ann Fox in the Machu Picchu Catalina Retreat Center. Been there 6 times now for the virtual retreats, and looking forward to going there live and in person. So my guest today is Kayleen Marshall, author of the book Who Will Love Me, and author of the upcoming book Untitled.
Yeah, it's entitled. Oh my goodness! Even you saying that, there's excitement because people want to know the rest of the story with my sister, how well she's doing.
Yeah.
So many people are afraid of, when they have a loved one with special needs, they have a plan for them in their head, right up here and here. The caretakers do. And then they're gone, and here you have, they pass away, and then we have Carrie's life that I'm watching now after the death of my mom and dad.
Yeah.
She's doing beautifully. And so I want to give people hope, right? And here she is. She's doing things my mom and dad wouldn't even let her do. Brian, we have a video of Carrie right after my mom passed away. We brought her to Illinois for a period of time. Then we went to Florida, and my son graduated from college, from film school. Wow. And we decided to go, go-karting. And she wanted to go-karting really bad. Wow. And she's never been go-karting, but she was watching us. And it's a go-karts where you wear the equipment, the hat, the full gear, and it's a speed track.
Oh, yeah.
And the owner of the go-kart place said, there's no way, she can't drive. And it's just too dangerous. I mean, it's a speed track.
Yeah.
So I stayed back with her, and I was a little bit miffed that I had to stay back with her. Yeah. And at the end of the time when our whole group was done, my kids and the people that we were with, we had some friends there. He looked at my sister and he goes, I am going to adapt everything so that you can go on your own go-kart. So they adapted the go-kart. They adapted her clothing, her helmet. They did something to their helmet, and they put her and I on the track. Now, she has never driven in her life.
Yeah.
And she got out there. It was like, oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And she could only push the pedal a certain amount. So, and everything they made everything on the track safe, and it was her and I go, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And she went first, and she actually knocked down a whole wall. It didn't scare her. They got her. They helped her with where to go. And we went around 3 times, and she got out, and I will never forget it. It was like, oh my goodness. No, she would have never done this with my mom and dad. And I'm thinking my mom and dad are rolling in the grave. And she loved it. And it gave her power. It gave her a sense of identity. And that is when I knew everything was going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything. It was amazing.
You say your mom and dad rolling, but I'm thinking I just have a picture of them looking at each other and both of them saying, "Told you."
It would be my dad looking at my mom going, see? But since then, she's gardening, she's swimming twice a week, she's bowling, she's working full time. She's doing beautifully.
That sounds great.
She's doing beautifully.
So the during the break, and we talked a little bit about the idea of the next book, and how I said I haven't read the whole book, but I did find some really I love some of the quotes. The unspoken fear. Yeah. The greatest mistake we make is living in constant fear that we will make a mistake. Yeah. John Maxwell. That really great quotes in the book. But the thing that really stood out for me is the the foreword, where the writer said, this is a book not just for people dealing with the specific situation like you're dealing with. It's a book for everyone.
Yeah, so I designed the book. If I have it right here, the book is 100 and it's small, 109 pages. Okay. And that's including the front and the back and the, all the acknowledgments. I did that deliberately because I wanted people to read it. So every chapter is 2 to 3 pages. And then there's process questions in every chapter. So you as a person process together. So what's happening is families are buying the book and processing it together. So it's giving them a safe environment to process. Or they'll ask me to come in as a coach and help them. I mean, there's lots of options. But I did it deliberately. And the lady who did my foreword, Nancy Orberg, she and I worked together at a large church in the area. So she actually saw me when I was doing ministry. And so she was able to bring some of that into it. But she said, everybody needs to read this book.
Yeah.
It just helps with transition and letting go. I'm looking at your fear, miracles in the mess. We don't want life to be messy. Yeah. And this has been messy. But I'm a better person for it. And that's what Nancy's talking about.
Well, it's, you said about transitions and change is something that we always will have change, as long as we live. You also mentioned that it's because of the authenticity of the book. And I love the word authentic. I've been using it for years. I found that it kind of became stylish again last year somehow. Yeah. Yeah. But the idea of it's very real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried to be as raw as I could be. There's nothing held back in the book. I had the book up on the shelf for several months, and I start the book out with a story of what happened in my home. There was a mom. We were having a Christmas party. Can I tell the story?
Yeah.
We were having a Christmas party every year since Carrie moved in with us. We had a party in our home of adults with disabilities from her church, where she went to church, and group homes and different people. And this mom came to this particular Christmas party. Long story short, she ended up having a heart attack at the party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up calling the ambulance, fire trucks. We had over 100 people with disabilities in our home. We have an average home, 2,800 square feet. It was packed. My family, my boys were here with their wives and a few neighbors helping. There's lots of people helping. We moved everybody out of our living room. Now just imagine moving 100 people that are all sitting on the floor, all packed in because we're going to open Christmas gifts together. And we moved everybody out. The mom was having something. I didn't know what it was. And when the paramedics came in, we took the front door off of our house, got the paramedics in. They actually revived her. She was unresponsive. Yeah. Revived her and then brought her back. And she looked right at me and she said, don't take me to the hospital. What's going to happen to my son? Who's going to take care of my son? And my kids both looked at me in the midst of all the chaos and said, you need to write this book because it's what happened to you. And we need to get the word out of just the process and the hope that of my story and then the hope of Carrie. And really, honestly, if I can just say it, God has them. God has them. God has Carrie. Even if I were gone right now, Carrie will be taken care of. She will be fine.
Wow. And that didn't turn out, as I remember from the first conversation,
she ended up going in the ambulance, had another heart attack, and passed away.
Yeah.
So we helped with part of that process. We were at the funeral, but the son, he didn't have any transition. His mom was just gone.
Yeah.
My mom was just gone.
Yeah.
I was the one that had to tell Carrie that she was sick.
Yeah.
Because my mom was too afraid. It's that fear.
Yeah.
And so there was no preparation. And my argument is, let's help these adults with disabilities. They're wonderful people. They're smarter than what we think. Let's help them with the transition. There's going to be change no matter what, like you just said, but we're all afraid of transition, of what's going to really happen. And so that's why I've been so public about my story, is to give people hope.
Yeah. Well, and to, get people to go through the workbook and be prepared, regardless of the transition, really. That's, we all face transition, and whether it's a big transition or a small transition, kind of paraphrase Viktor Frankl, it fills our conscious mind and our soul, whatever we are thinking about, right?
Right. When I speak to audiences, I ask, what's the number one thing that keeps you up at night? And people will stand up in the audience, literally stand up and yell out, what's going to happen to my kid when I die?
We will come back to that on the other side of our break. But we are going to another break. And remember, you can support the Bravehearts radio show for as little as $280 a week. And that supports your business, and you're supporting the Bravehearts for Kids Pediatric Cancer Organization too, braveheartsforkids.org. Stick with us. We'll be back after these very important messages.
Voice America is available on your Google connected device.
Okay, Google, play Turning Hard Times into Good Times podcast on iHeartRadio.
Try it today.
Bravehearts Radio is sponsored by Bravehearts for Kids, a national pediatric cancer charity. Our mission is to provide life-saving hope and inspiration to families facing a pediatric cancer ordeal through outreach, information, and mentoring. Our recently updated Spotlight Hope mobile app puts families in touch with resources to help make their lives better from any location in the USA. For more information or to help, go to braveheartsforkids.org. That's braveheartsforkids.org. As the mission specialist, Brian Reinbold doesn't fly the rockets, but he does help to make sure each mission gets accomplished. Employee engagement is such an important concern for business people today. Brian helps socially conscious businesses reduce expenses, increase profits, and inspire a sense of dedication in the workforce by training mission-building behavior. It's not what Brian does that's most important. It's what people do after he trains them. For more information, contact Brian Reinbold at Mission Specialist at braveheartsradio.org.
The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're part of Bravehearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian. His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
And welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to Bravehearts Radio. We broadcast live on Voice America's flagship Variety channel, and all of our shows are available on demand 24/7 on your favorite podcast service. Coming into the third segment, I also like to say something about the National Day Calendar. NationalDayCalendar.com is one of the great supporters of the Bravehearts for Kids Pediatric Cancer Charity. And April 28th every year, of course, is National Bravehearts Day. Today is Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day and Licorice Day. I guess we all have our preferences on licorice, but who doesn't like a grilled cheese sandwich?
No, I was like, wow, why aren't we eating a sandwich while we're here?
I had an idea to do something I'm calling the cooking show. It's going to be our expansion into television. And I thought, as divisive as things can be in our world, we like to eat each other's food.
Yes, we do.
And I think that's a good way to bring people together. My guest today is Kayleen Marshall. She is the author of Who Will Love Me. She's also the founder and CEO of the Viaggio Group. Is that, did I get that right?
Yep, Viaggio Group. It's Italian.
Yeah, Viaggio. And if you're going to have one food, a lot of people would vote for Italian, I'm sure.
Yes.
And it's to connect with you. Your website is it KayleenMarshall.com?
Yeah, KayleenMarshall.com.
That's a good website to look you up. And then Kayleen.Marshall@viagiogroup.net.
You got it.
And that's VIAGGIO group.net. So what the Viaggio Group, that's coaching, consulting, family coaching?
Yeah, so I coach executives, leaders, and small business owners. I have a passion for small business owners because of having to actually step out of my role when I was full-time ministry women's director because of the death of my parents. So I took on the care of Carrie. She moved into our home, and I started my own company. It's actually something I've always wanted to do. It just kind of expedited. And I started my own company. I chose Viaggio because the word means journey. And I want to help people along their journeys. I've had a lot of help. People have come alongside of myself and my husband all through our lives. We've had great mentors. You mentioned John Maxwell. We were at his church for 7 years. We were a part of his leadership team. So we love John Maxwell. But he's just one of them that has been in our lives to help us. So, I do leaders, I coach leaders, executives, and business owners.
Well, you knew John Maxwell before he became the famous John Maxwell, I think.
Yes, you know what? I did. We were at his church in San Diego, and I remember his first book he wrote the book, Think on These Things. That's a book that he passed out to all the new members at church. But then he wrote the book, Developing the Leader Within You. Developing the Leader Within You. And he passed that out in the communion plate of the church one Sunday. And he's a huge giver. So instead of us putting money in the offering plate, he gave us a gift with his book.
Nice.
So I have the original book, which is a smaller version of the one that he has now. But being under his leadership just propelled my husband and I forward. And, everything's connected. And I'm really grateful that I actually took a seminary class from him. Your attitude is the key to your success. And that's actually where I met my husband in that same class. And
sounds like a good place to meet.
So we met in Colorado at seminary. And from there, 3 years later, we hooked back up. My husband and I got engaged. And then we moved to San Diego. And we're like, where are we going to go to church? And we looked in the yellow pages. We just flipped it open. And there was this ad for Skyline Church. So we ended up there.
Very nice. My sister lived in San Diego or in that area for quite a while. And I remember thinking about as perfect a climate as there is.
Yeah, it's there's nothing like it. It's absolutely beautiful all year round.
So think on these things. There's such. I have an MP3 that I send out to people. It's called "As a Man Thinketh," and it's James Allen's book from 1909. Based on, I believe that one of the Psalms is on the theme, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And but that's one of those books when you mention 100 and some pages. James Allen's book is 7,800 words, and I read it straight through. The audio version, 63 minutes.
Yeah. John will even say it's the worst book he ever written.
His first one?
Yeah, it was 99 pages and errors, and he just went for it. And that's just the other thing is, what's holding you back? And that's why I'm like, Brian, you said, go write another book. It does propel me because, we have one life and we get to live it. And how do we want to live it?
Yeah.
And I don't want to be held back.
And don't think you have to compete with John for getting a bunch of books out. Right?
He has a guy named Charlie who's a friend of ours. Charlie has written his books. He knows John's brain and his heart. But yeah, John's just the real deal. He's a good man. Yeah,
you know what? I think we all needed Charlie.
Yeah. I had, in my book, I asked somebody to come alongside of me and help me. And she got like everything formulated. And then I actually had one of my clients, my coaching clients, come behind that. She knew how I spoke, and really helped me refine everything. When you're in the story and writing it at the same time, I find it very hard.
Yeah, there's Earl Nightingale is one of my mentors, and one of the things I remember he would say is, why don't you take a look at it the way someone else might from the outside?
Yeah.
Why does he do it this way? Why does she do it this way? And Viaggio, you do the via and geo. Sounds like travel, geography. In my long time ago Latin,
So it's just helping people along their journey. We're all on a journey, and we all need people in our lives that will help us when we get sidetracked, stuck. And a lot of times we don't want help because of our pride. And so coaching comes alongside of, it helps somebody focus, it helps develop awareness, it helps accountability, and it helps with the action steps. Yeah. And so that's what I do.
Yeah, Coach, I remember thinking that the most important or best financial decision I ever made was hiring a personal trainer once upon a time. And that was until I got a life coach.
Yeah.
And my first life coach was Marcy Narum. She was a John Maxwell coach, back in, from Bismarck. Yeah. And
I think everybody needs, honestly, a therapist in their life. Therapists help you look at things in the past if you get stuck.
Yeah.
And start working on that. And then coupled with a coach to propel you forward. And then for me, a business coach helping me develop my business. I went to, for my coaching, I got my leadership and my life coaching through PCCI, Professional Christian Coaching Network. They're fabulous. I would recommend them for anybody. And then now I'm in a coaching cohort with a group of coaches. And I keep in touch with coaches all day long.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You also are really a networker, right?
I love networking. My husband's like, you're always thinking about who you can connect somebody with. And that actually comes from my mom and dad.
Yeah.
My mom and dad were very giving people, very, very giving people. So my dad did driveways when there was snow in Iowa, 4 feet of snow. My dad would go out and just plow everybody's driveway for no money. Just to help people. My parents taught me to help people, and to give, to be a giver. Yeah. And so in that, I'm constantly helping or thinking about how can I help you? Yeah. Who can I introduce you to? Maybe what is the next part of your journey? Yeah. So in that, I was able to buy a company, Am Spirit Connection, because I've done a lot of networking here in the Chicagoland area, and the owner came to me a couple years ago and asked if I would want to buy into it, and I was able to. So, so I own, along with another gal, we're both the first franchise owners in the Chicagoland area so if you're looking for a networking group, I would love to talk to anybody.
Yeah, well, and when you mentioned Am Spirit, Frank Agan was the guy that connected you and I originally.
That's right.
And Frank is very much like that. I when I first talked to him, I said I didn't know what a super connector he was at that point, and I described myself as a connector because when I read Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, and there was something in there about there's a connector, that's someone who makes connections for the sheer joy of seeing good things happen. And I thought, oh my God, that's me. And Frank is. I just have to give a shout out to Frank because I love the guy and the way he puts people together. And
He's a wonderful man.
Yeah, just does a great.
And that's thinking of the other person.
Yeah, that's Am Spirit, not a sponsor of Bravehearts Radio, but I'm willing to give him a plug anyway. I really like that guy. So.
Yeah, I really am thankful for him.
Yeah. So we go to one more quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap up the day here on Bravehearts Radio on Voice America Variety Channel with Kayleen Marshall, Viaggio Group, and the author of Who Will Love Me. Stick with us. We will be back on the other side of 60 seconds.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN. Bravehearts Radio is sponsored by Bravehearts for Kids, a national pediatric cancer charity. Our mission is to provide life-saving hope and inspiration to families facing a pediatric cancer ordeal through outreach, information, and mentoring. Our recently updated Spotlight Hope mobile app puts families in touch with resources to help make their lives better from any location in the USA. For more information or to help, go to braveheartsforkids.org. That's braveheartsforkids.org. As the mission specialist, Brian Reinbold doesn't fly the rockets, but he does help to make sure each mission gets accomplished. Employee engagement is such an important concern for business people today. Brian helps socially conscious businesses reduce expenses, increase profits, and inspire a sense of dedication in the workforce by training mission-building behavior. It's not what Brian does that's most important. It's what people do after he trains them. For more information, contact Brian Reinbold at Mission Specialist at braveheartsradio.org.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
You're part of Bravehearts Radio. Call into the program today to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also email Brian. His email is missionspecialist@braveheartsradio.org. Now, back to this week's show.
And welcome back, Bravehearts. You're listening to Bravehearts Radio. I'm your host, Brian Reinbold, and I am the mission specialist because it's your parade. I just help make sure you're in it. And we are planning some trips, Machu Picchu, September and December. And you can check those out at machupicchu.braveheartsadventures.org. You know, one of the things that I find difficult, Kathleen, is giving long websites on the radio, or, in vocal. And, when I say, to connect with Kayleen at viaggiogroup.net,
that's my email, but you can go to KayleenMarshall.com and there you go.
Kayleen, K-A-L-E-E-N Marshall.com. Yep. We kind of winding down the show here. Yeah. In the last segment, I like to get into, what if we created, what are our commitments going forward? And you mentioned that you've learned a lot from your sister in the past 9 years.
Yeah. So one of the things, there's several things, but I wanted to tell a story. One of the things I did not hear from Carrie for a long time, as she moved into our home and lived with her, because she didn't really have the concept of that I was taking care of her, that she couldn't live on her own. So it felt like there was a lack of appreciation, and I was the bad guy because I was making all of the decisions for her medically. I told you, Brian, she has a heart condition. She has 3 holes in her heart. Her birthday is Wednesday. She's going to be 54. She lives for her birthday. It's going to be a fun day. She's going to be here with our family. But when we placed her in a community in the Chicagoland area, we had the opportunity to place her. And I I got her out of the car and we started walking up this driveway into the community. Mm-hmm. And she stopped me while we were walking, and she turned me very intentionally. And she's tiny. She's like 4'8". She weighs 92 pounds. Mm-hmm. But she's very powerful in her words and her "me speak to you." Mm-hmm. And she turned to me and she said, "Thank you for taking care of me." Mm-hmm. And I broke. And that's the picture, actually, that's on the back cover of my book. Because it's like she was saying, "I love you. Yeah. I know what you've done. And thank you for taking care of me." And she was ready for the next piece of her journey. Mm-hmm. Her journey. Not my journey with her, but she wanted to be in a living on her own. And thanked me. So Carrie has taught me to show up every day. Just get out of bed and show up. Mm-hmm. And not to have any expectations. I can have things planned, like we planned this today. Yeah. I have lots of plans. But it's a different kind of showing up where I'm more aware of what's going on around me. Uh-huh. Take some time and sit and reflect and look out the window and see really what's going on. Yeah. Not just look out the window and be hurried. She's also taught me that it's important to have really safe people around me and her to process with and to be in community with. Yeah. And so really to have I call it part of the chat. There's one chapter that says your tribe, picking your tribe.
Chapter 7. Yeah.
Yeah. And we oftentimes go through life alone, and we are not designed to do life alone. Right. We're designed to have wonderful people in our lives for accountability and just to love us. And if we're so busy, I'm a type A personality moving along, and I miss a lot. And honestly, these last 9 years, I've missed some things, but not like I used to. Like, it's just slowed me down. She has slowed me down. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that. And then with that word grateful, I continue to learn to have gratitude in my life every single day. Every single day, no matter what today looks like, there is good. There is good in my life. And that's my hope, is there is so much good in our world. There's so much good in my life. There's so much good right here. Yeah. And then to take time and to enjoy that time is my friend.
Yeah, I like to say gratitude is the beginning of all good things. Wow. We're kind of ending the show on that, but this surely is not the end. Gratitude is the beginning of all good things, and I reckon it's kind of when Viktor Frankl's idea that sorrow or suffering fills our mind and our soul completely, regardless of whether it's large or small. Mm-hmm. I think the same is true for gratitude. It can fill our mind and our soul completely, regardless of whether the gratitude is large or small.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's really so much throughout our day that happens that if we don't stop and if we're not paying attention, we miss it. Yeah. And there's so much good and so much fun. And there's things that happen all day long that are funny.
Missing the opportunity for gratitude is the opposite of appreciation. I think is taking something for granted, and I think that's where when people say, "Well, we're not in love anymore," you hear people will say that sad thing, and I think it's simply a matter of forgetting to appreciate the things that you fell in love with in the first place.
Yeah, we miss it, and we move away from that. And that's why it's so important to have people in your life to help you stay centered so you can't lose your true self.
Yep. Sounds like a good role for a coach.
Or a new book, right?
I do have a couple of friendly acquaintances that that help with ghostwriting and that sort of thing too. So maybe we can make that connection if you like. But I have a book that 7 years it's been sitting on my back desk here, and it's called Permission to Have a Great Life. And it's about listening to the voice of the genuine that speaks quietly through us. I still haven't published it. I've had 7 years now to consider the rewrites and edits and such. So I want to thank you for being on the show today, Kayleen. This has been an absolute treasure to be with you. At the end of the book, there's a call to action, and that's visit KayleenMarshall.com or email at Viaggio Group. I'd like to encourage people to do that. Remember to also go to braveheartsforkids.org and consider helping in any way that you can. Just $20 can bring a banner of joy to a child with cancer. And it means now to those families more than ever before. Please plan to join us every Monday at 3 o'clock Central Time live, or any time on your favorite podcast service for Brave Hearts Radio. Next week, we'll have as our guest Rosie Zelinskas. Rosie has been here before, and she and I just spent a weekend at the virtual retreat in Catalina, Daniel Gutierrez's place in Peru. So you'll not want to miss that. Remember that doing good anywhere does good everywhere, and we'll see you next week. Until then, be well and stay well.
Thanks again for joining us this week for Brave Hearts Radio. Be sure to tune in for another edition featuring your host, Brian Reinbold. The show can be heard every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel. We'll talk again next time.